Welcome back, folks. So we're starting our investments AIP panel, but to just remind everybody, please scan the QR codes, not only for the extra credit and the FMA extra credit that you get for your classes. The reason for this is we're gonna use it also for the raffle, the Bucks raffle. So it's not for me, it's for you. So do it for yourself, please. And with that, I'm gonna have RJ, I guess, start the investment panel. Is there anything you need, or?
No, I'm good. I will just have everybody introduce themselves, starting with you, Blake.
Sure. My name is Blake Bartlett. Graduated in 2018 from Whitewater, so getting old here. But I've came here a couple of times to speak, and I always look forward to it because I remember, for me, it doesn't feel like that long ago where I was sitting in this room. But I'm currently a portfolio manager at Schaper, Benz, and Wise. I started there as an investment analyst and recently moved up to portfolio manager. Before that, I spent a year working at U.S. Bank doing in downtown Milwaukee, doing hedge fund and private credit bank debt fund valuations.
Hi everyone, Dylan Paprocki, Whitewater class of 2022, as well as AIP class of 22 with Courtney. So really happy to be here. Good to be back. I'm currently a real estate investment analyst for Northwestern Mutual Real Estate, and so what this department does is, in insurance companies, they, have their premiums, policyholders, let's say it's like life, auto, or home. They pay their premiums every month, and these premiums roll up into this investment arm. And in this investment arm, they put out that money in fixed income, public equity, or real estate, which is where I'm at. So my job is to essentially invest in multifamily, office, industrial, retail assets, in private debt, and private equity. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
My name is Courtney Jentz. I am also Whitewater class of 2022 with Dylan and AIP class of 22 with RJ. I currently am a research analyst at Geneva Capital Management in downtown Milwaukee. Basically, we run 3 different strategies for small, mid, and SMID cap equities, and I do research on individual stocks that go into our portfolios, and we manage about $6 billion currently. So that's me.
Hi guys, Jacob Frey, investment banking associate at Baird. I was public accounting before this, so I made the switch to finance. Thank you, RJ. Best decision I ever made. But I sit within Baird's global investment banking group, which focuses on mid-cap companies that are public. So I sit within our equity capital markets group and focus solely on IPOs and follow-ons. So we advise companies on raising capital in the public markets, whether that's be a company that's private and wants to go public, you can buy the stock, or a company that's already public needs more capital to fund an acquisition, to fund a planned expansion, things of that nature. Happy to be here.
The panel is distinguished in ways that they're too humble to share, but I'll embarrass them and share this with you. Blake Bartlett scored in the top 10% of all test takers worldwide on the CFA exam. Dylan Paprocki is maybe the finest student I've ever had in my time here. He took a 472 with me, and I was watching what he was doing when he was taking notes, because he was like cutting and pasting out of Bloomberg and then putting it into his notes. And I said to him, like, can you send that to me and I'll use it to lecture next year? He also was selected as one of the, is it 8 team leads in your fund, in 8 regional team leads?
Yes,
and
yeah.
in his MS real estate fund in private equity track. He had the Northeast region under his control. Courtney had multiple awards, multiple scholarships that she won, but in her MBA class, she was the recipient of the award for excellence as the top person in her cohort. And then Jacob Frey was an academic All-American on a football team that was runner-up in your senior year, right? You lost in the championship game. I believe it was a 3.98 combined cumulative GPA, 99? Thank you for the correction. With a double major in accounting and finance. And after a great start in accounting, made the switch over to, he also has his CPA, made the switch over to the investment business and is doing extremely well. His team at Baird, correct me again on the specifics, but did the second and third largest deals in the history of the firm, and Baird is 100 years old, right? And Jacob was a part of those teams that completed those deals. So he's doing exceptionally well. All these people are doing exceptionally well, and it makes me super proud and happy. So one of the things I think that the people in the audience could benefit from would be to talk about like a day in your life, what you do, so that they could see potential tracks that they might want to follow in. And again, I'll go from you, starting Blake.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, I started as an investment analyst. I'll just talk a little bit about that. It's a critical part of the career path, and what most people, they're sitting here that want to get into investments would probably start out doing. We spend, in that role, spend a good amount of our time almost exclusively researching, doing fundamental bottom-up research on stocks. So we would just, we've got a working list of about 80 companies that the firm is responsible to follow. These are companies that real client money is invested in, that our portfolio managers, which is what I'm doing now, are allocating funds to. And so it's a job where we've got a team of analysts that are required to keep up on those companies, monitor them, report on them, and keep us abreast with information to are these still good investments where we should still be allocating capital? Should we buy more if the stock gets clipped on maybe a missed earnings report? Is something that we should maybe try to work our way out of because we think a competitor is coming in or we think the company's deteriorating. So there's a lot. It's a very important role, and it's a very interesting and engaging role because you're constantly having to sift through new amounts of information as the world is ever changing. We don't have any particular like industry focus, so everyone's a generalist, so you get really good exposure to all of the different types of companies out there, whether it's in banking and finance, whether it's in informational technology, healthcare. And the reason we do that is because our firm's kind of unique where after working a few years as an analyst, you've got the opportunity to kind of work with clients and become a portfolio manager. And that background helps because when you're putting together a portfolio, you're not just selecting stocks from one particular industry, you're kind of collectively building that together. So that's sort of what I'm doing now. It's the other part of what we do. We manage about $1.7 billion. I'm responsible for a small portion of that, like 30 million or so. And we work with primarily high net worth clients. So we have very few clients that have very large asset sizes. And we do that so we can limit the number of people that we work with so we can have very close relationships with them. But yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Before we move on, I just, you use the term high net worth. What is the average client size, SBW?
That would probably 5 million, I would say. It's a hard answer because we've got a minimum of about 2 million. And so the average is probably around 5, but it gets skewed because we've got a few large endowments and large family foundations that are 30, 40, 50 million.
All right.
On that topic too, you have different types of investors, right? So you've got high net worth, you have family offices, think like, family with a lot of money. that wants to invest their money. And then you also have institutional money, which is a firm like Northwestern Mutual. So our portfolio size is roughly $66 billion, and that's split up between debt and equity. So similar to when you think of a house, right? Like you have your mortgage, but then you also have, equity in that house. And if you put that to scale, let's say an apartment building, for the most part, everyone here probably lives, in an apartment. Let's take Starin, which is now called Polium. And so if we take Polium, that's a perfect example. Northwestern Mutual is a firm that, would put, all the debt or part of all the debt and part of the equity on this property for a return. And so my day-to-day operations, my job as an analyst is to essentially put out this money on behalf of NMRE. And so what does that mean? There's real estate is such an integrated part of our life, where we live, if you shop, retail, where you work in office. And so it's a really fun industry because you get to see exactly where your money is being invested to. You get to experience it. If you're extroverted, it's, really a relationship business. And if you love to travel too, any property we invest in, the analyst team and the producer have to visit the property, meet the sponsor before we can actually put out the money. So my job is to underwrite these properties, look at, if rents are capable, if valuations are correct, and then, pitch that to senior leadership, similar to like an investment committee for approval before we invest the dollars.
This doesn't fit neatly into anything else that I was going to say, but Dylan, you're going to complete like a cycle here in Milwaukee, which is effectively like a training round, and we'll be going to Dallas in like 5 months or so.
So real estate is very region focused. So, as an institutional investor, we invest dollars all across the United States, right? And so how NM's rotation is, and I really encourage this when you try to look for jobs, look for a rotational program. So for example, Northwestern Mutual, I work in Milwaukee for a year, and I work with all the different field offices, and the field offices where they actually invest in the real estate, and then they send it to the home office for approval, and so I underwrite those deals. But it's kind of like you get to work with all field offices, get to meet everybody, and then you get to, kind of choose a field office to go travel to, live, and then invest that money with the producer. And we have an office in Dallas, so might go be a cowboy for a couple of years. We'll see.
Tough to follow. So I said I was a research analyst at Geneva Capital. What does that mean? Basically, it's actually super similar to what Blake was talking about, where he started out as a research analyst. That's basically exactly what I do. Just each firm has its own specific philosophy and kind of secret sauce in what they do and how they invest their money. So at Geneva, we're focused on small and mid-cap, really high quality companies. We're focused on good management teams and just like getting to know them on a personal level and understanding how they manage their business going forward. So my day-to-day is I'm usually doing just a lot of reading and research for a specific company. So right now, since I just started as a full-time analyst in June, I'm ramping. Basically, they're having me look at a company for a month or two at a time and learn everything I can possibly learn about this business model, building out a financial model and seeing where I think the financials are going to go in the future, and getting to talk to management, talk to other analysts in the business, and just trying to determine my own thesis of what I think this company can do and if I believe it's a quality business or not. Other things that I get to do is travel to conferences and hear from a lot of different like publicly traded companies, their CEOs and CFOs. I'm face to face with them in the room. I'm asking them the hard questions. It's really cool to be on this side of the table and talk to these people that have really long, successful careers in huge businesses, and I'm the one that's asking them the questions. Yeah, I don't know how much else to add, but thanks.
That's pretty good. I'll follow up with some more stuff. Courtney made a good distinction about the different options, different, as she said, secret sauces, and this comes from her time at Culver's. She was a member of Team Scoopy for many years before she came to Whitewater. But what is the composition of Geneva's capital? Like, who do you manage money for?
Yeah, so and I don't know a ton about this. Again, I just started, but we're doing mainly it's institutional money. It's like pension funds.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then also there's some high net worth in there.
Okay. Another thing, because it doesn't fit neatly in her, trajectory of meeting me when she thought she was going to be an accountant, and then switching to the investment side and that focus. You turned down KPMG's full-time job, and did you get 5 other investment jobs?
Like 3.
Well, but are you counting Wasatch or not? Because
Okay, yeah, I guess.
Okay. So she had 5 job opportunities that she selected from across different asset classes and, even industries, which, is an amazing thing to have those kind of choices. The linkage between the 2 people on the panel is that when I met Courtney in person for the first time, I called Jacob out of the blue during a workday, right, on the phone and said, hey, there's this girl sitting here who thinks she's an accountant, but she's not. Could you talk to her for 5 minutes? And he did such a good job that she eventually switched and went into the investment business. So with that additional, touting of Jacob's amazing salesmanship, talk about your days at Baird and what you get to do and why, as you said, within 5 minutes of being there, you realized you were in the right place and had made a good decision to leave public accounting.
Yeah, that's a true story. Public accounting for 15 months, I'll say. I usually say 18, but 15 actual months. I got to my desk at Baird within 5 minutes. I kid you not, I texted my family, this is the right decision for me. And I was very angst about the decision because I knew accounting my entire life. Parents are both accountants, aunt's accountant, cousins are accountants. So I was kind of going off, but the best decision I ever made. So as I said, I am a banking associate within ECM. So like Blake was saying, we have about 100 companies within my 2 sectors that I cover that we follow. The difference is we are advising the company and we don't have funds. So where Blake and Courtney have money to invest, we are actually being hired by the company to advise them on how to raise capital. So it's very different. So I'm like Blake and Courtney, I'm watching stocks all day, but I have a different mindset. I'm thinking about, okay, this stock just jumped 10% on earnings. We should get in front of them because they need money in the next 12 months to build a new factory, to make an M&A acquisition. So the company pays us part of the, like if we raise $100 million, we get 6% of that. So we get $6 million fee. So the question is, why would a company hire Baird, my team, versus Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, RBC? And the reason is because we have connections with investors. So I can go to Courtney and be like, hey, Courtney, this company is really good, mid-cap industrial company. They're going to raise $100 million this week. Do you want to take a meeting with management? She takes a meeting. She kills the meeting. She's like, hey, we want 10%. We want $10 million order. That looks so good to the company. So then going forward, like you just continue to build those relationships and you continue to build your relationship with Courtney, with Blake. And eventually over time, nobody wants to leave Baird off the deal because we're going to be the bank that brings you the best accounts. And the funny thing about my job is everything's public. So if Courtney would sell a stock, everybody would know immediately. So if we bring her into the book and she sells it the next quarter, guess who that looks bad on? Baird, if we said that she was a long-term investor. So that's part of my day, is really connecting companies with investors and trying to make those connections to be able to raise money for companies. The other part of my day is really the execution, which is the fun part. So when we actually have a live deal. So market opens at 8:30. So between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning, every company usually has press releases different times throughout the year. So we monitor the news. We make sure we send notes to management teams, send notes to my senior bankers. And then when the market closes at 3 o'clock, that's when all the deals happen. So at 3:01, you'll see 20 press releases that get released about a company doing a deal. And that's when we actually are raising money from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. We can raise money within 4 hours. And it could be 50 million and it could be $1 billion. So that's the fun part. That's when you're on the phone with the investors, you're trying to get an order, you're trying to get them to come into the order book. And then after that, the rest of my job is more kind of mapping out different strategies. And I'll stop there.
Since I think the principal objective of this is to give students, perspective, could you talk about the specific nature of the things that you do in your job that, fulfill you, challenge you, why you like what you're doing, and why people that are sitting in these seats, which you guys were sitting in not that long ago, might think, yeah, you know what, I should try and follow that track, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the first part is that it's a job that you walk in one day and you could have a very similar day that you had previously, or you could have you could take a drastic turn. We've had like, in a positive light, one of your companies maybe gets you get the news that they're getting bought out, and the stock is up.
I don't think drastic is usually has the connotation of a positive light,
Yeah.
but go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, it's certainly negative, but what's really rewarding about it is you can do a lot of work, understand a company, and you come to the conclusion that the market, your conclusion is that the market's not realizing the value, and you can go extended periods of time and you feel like it's still not recognizing the value, and then maybe one day it does. That's an incredibly rewarding feeling that you were right about something, and you're not going to be right about everything, certainly, but it feels like there's few jobs out there that can have that sort of payoff, and when you like if you take over a company from someone, that's one thing, but if it's a company that you went out there and found and said, this is going to be a good investment, believe me, you build your investment thesis case as you spend hours and weeks and maybe even months sifting through the financials and basically convincing the members of the committee why this is a good idea. That payoff is significant.
So, some of the reasons I mentioned, in real estate, I kind of describe myself as like a mix between like an extrovert, but also someone that, likes to dive into the numbers. And you have this balance, right? Like one day you might be, diving into the models, right? Where the other day, you're meeting with like developers or sponsors. And so it's a fun industry, and you get to travel, as I mentioned. And in the private debt and equity, the real estate private debt and equity side, Northwestern Mutual, we invest in like Class A properties, like the best of the best, just because it's an institutional money lender. But, in real estate, there's so much money to be made, not only professionally, but also personally. If this is an industry that you want to go into and you eventually want to personally own real estate, your day job is you're learning all the skills in your day job to apply to your personal life if you choose to. And also too, it's so market specific, so location specific. If you're an expert in Milwaukee or an expert in Madison, whether you work for a firm or you want to do things personally, you can make a lot of money and beat out other competitors too.
Dylan, we're all capitalists here, or we should be, and so you seem a little reticent about the opportunity to make a lot of money, and I think that's one of the things that makes me happiest for you. So, good job.
Thank you.
Courtney.
Yeah, so maybe I'll contrast a little bit of like why I find fulfillment in what I do now versus. I think it's working. Maybe I'm just not. Does it sound the same with this one as the other one? Okay, hold it closer, right here, nice and loud. Anyways, so like Jacob talked about, like I thought I was going to be an accountant, decided to switch into this industry. So maybe I'll talk about why I feel more fulfilled in this industry versus what I thought I was going to be doing. So essentially, which I don't want to, there are probably a lot of accounting majors in here. I don't want to like double majors maybe. I don't want to keep hashing on it, but I'm just going to talk about my experience. Basically, I did a bunch of internships in accounting, both like public and private, and also tax and audit. Did like every scheme of accounting I could possibly do while I was in college, and they were fine. I thought I enjoyed it, just like working through some numbers, the regulations. Okay, that was fine. A good, consistent career path. I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I learned that you can take all of that knowledge and apply it into forward looking and like take financial statements of a publicly traded company, predict it forward, and if you're right, you can make a lot of money. So if you're competitive and you do it the right way, it can be really fulfilling. So another thing that I really like is, I think I'm very similar to Dylan in terms of like, I'm extroverted, I like to talk to people, I like building relationships, but also I enjoy sitting by myself and grinding, learning as much as I can about a specific business model, a specific company that we're investing in at my firm. Maybe one thing that I also really like about my job is that it's hybrid. So the days that I go into the office, like it's a lot of meetings, a lot of like talking to other people on my investment team, and we're a team-based approach. So like every decision we're making and what companies we're buying or selling, or if we're trimming a company or adding more to a position, it's all the team has to agree on it before we do it. But then the days that I work from home, usually I am sitting there and just trying to figure out something every single day. I kind of struggled with this at first, going from being a student and having assignments with due dates and like checking the box. Like I write in my planner each assignment I have and I would cross it off when it's done. Now I get a company and there's like not an end. I can keep learning as much, I can go as deep as I want to on this company, and like I still won't know it all. So kind of finding a balance of being comfortable in knowing enough about this company to make like a good investment decision on it, but also just I spend a lot of my time thinking and not necessarily putting out like an assignment, you know, where you've turned it in physically and it's done. I don't do that a lot. It's like I'm thinking through this business model and different scenarios for this company. And I really enjoy that because it's just a lot more in-depth thinking, for lack of a better word, than like what I felt like maybe I was doing in school of just like getting an assignment, getting it done, getting an assignment, getting it done. I just find it a lot more fulfilling. And again, if you do it right, it can be a really good career path and you can make a lot of money too, which isn't what it's all about, but it helps.
The event is called Finance Day, so I think it's completely within bounds to disparage accounting. We use accounting as a tool, not as an end into itself. So, Jacob, take a swing at the same question, please.
Yeah, so my day is 180% different than Courtney's day. I am always on the phone. I'm always working in a team. It is very loud. So because I sit in ECM, we sit on the trading floor. So from 8:30 to 3 p.m., traders are yelling. So it's very different. And I am paid to put out product. I would love to think more. I would love to do what she does, but we have anywhere from a dozen to 20 meetings a week with CFOs, CEOs, and finance people. So it is about material, it's about material, and it's about material. So it's about how quickly can you do it and how effective can you do it. The best part of my job, though, is, as Courtney was saying, we have so much exposure to C-level management. So like I'm not talking to somebody my age, I'm talking to somebody who's been in the industry for 30 years, a CEO of a private company. The next best part of my job is also trying to win business. Played football, super competitive guy. Banking is all about winning. It's all about beating your peers. So we are always pitching. We're always trying to win the next deal. We're trying to win the next deal after that. Right? It's always about positioning. So last week I came and spoke to AIP. On Thursday, my team went down to Atlanta and we had a pitch for this private distribution company that we're trying to be on the IPO for. So kind of like a pre-pitch is what we said. But 65-page PowerPoint presentation. Me and my team worked on it for 2.5 weeks. So stuff like that is very fulfilling for me, because when I came from accounting, as Courtney was kind of saying, I was always looking back. I was told what to write based on the conclusion, where now I'm looking at the data, I'm deciding what the data says, and I'm saying, hey, like, you should talk to this guy because he owns these companies. You should talk to Courtney because she owns these companies. And then secondly, you should do this size of a deal because this is what's been done previously. So it's different. Banking is very fast paced, everything's always urgent. That's the hard part of the job, honestly, more than what Blake and Courtney are doing. They're really trying to understand a company. I cover healthcare and industrials, so very different, but I'm about like this deep, where Courtney's probably all the way down here. So I have a good understanding of the industry, but if you ask me about a company's financials, outside of EBITDA and revenue, I probably have no idea.
So I think there's common themes there, though, and I'm going to open it up to questions from the people in the audience here in a minute. But just nod if you agree with this, right? Your job is intellectually challenging. It presents different challenges on any given day. You get to compete as a part of your job. If you're wired that way, like there's certain industries that you don't really scratch that itch in any significant way. And I have kept track of you guys, and I see the amazing lives you're leading, and I see, trips to Hawaii and St. John's, and where was the other place you went? Yeah, Australia, right? So you're being well compensated, and you get this intellectual challenge in a job that does this for you every single day. Like, I think that's grounds for disparaging accounting, but we can leave it at that. And so I'll turn to the students. Were you going to say something?
I just want to add, a couple things that I was thinking about as everyone was going down the line. One of the other things I didn't talk about is it's, when you're working, especially with clients, if you are a portfolio manager or you're on investment counsel, that, you give information to a portfolio manager that does ultimately work with the client, you can kind of watch the success story there, and you can kind of follow along, and it's rewarding to see that. But there's two other things I want to say on a personal note. Is we mentioned too, it's a very lucrative career, and the finance industry is as a whole. But particularly for me, one thing I didn't really think about until I started working here is you develop a lot of skills in the career that you can use for your own portfolio and your own retirement goals. And then whereas a lot of people, don't have that. They have to, seek counsel from someone. You can sort of keep track of your own, and you can really benefit yourself personally from the skills you develop in the career field.
That is a great point. Thanks, Blake. So are there any questions from people in the audience? Wow, that's awesome. There's a bunch of hands right away. So I'm going to go to the girl next to Brianna.
Okay. Wait, okay. As someone who's like more recently interested in this, I feel like I'm definitely not as advanced as my peers are, as I graduate this December with just a general finance major. And so I've just recently kind of gained interest for this field. Do you have any advice for me as far as like a starting job outside of graduation, since like general, like most analyst positions aren't going to be attainable to me? I guess any advice for anyone who's less prepared, I should say, for this.
You're graduating in December? Yeah, it's a very competitive job market to get into. Maybe you and I should talk separately, and then I can convince you to stay around and do AIP, because that would give you a better chance to get into this. I think everybody on the panel would say that the job that they got was made possible in large measure because of your participation in AIP. if you come up and meet with me afterwards, I'll give you some job search stuff, because you know how for accountants, the CPA is like their certification. There's a certification similar for investments called the CFA, and their website actually has jobs, and I'll talk with you separately, but if you go to the CFA Institute website and do job searches for like associates in the investment business are typically entry-level positions, but I'll give you a deeper dive if we meet up later. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Should I pass this to Brianna?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I make a comment quick?
Oh, sure.
Just going along with that, because when I even initially was like considering going into finance and maybe not necessarily investing, I just was talking to as many people as I possibly could, especially like the alumni base of Whitewater. And then I also went to Madison, just like people that I found on LinkedIn stalking roles, doing like anything I was roughly interested in, and just be like, hey, can we have like a 20-minute conversation? And people love that because they love talking about themselves. So anyways, I would highly recommend, especially like being here, you're doing the right things. Just like any networking, talking to people, having more conversations, that's what's going to open the most doors, I think, in the long term.
I think by virtue of her answer, you know that she loves talking about herself, and now you can contact her. All right. Brianna, you had a question?
Yeah, real quick, could you all run through what you did after leaving Whitewater that led up to your job? If you went for more schooling and how much more schooling? Yeah.
Sure.
Hang on, I'm going to interrupt again. No, yes, yes, no in more schooling. Okay, but I'll let him do deeper dive.
Yeah. I knew what I wanted to do once I went through RJ's class, the AIP. I don't know how long it took, but at one point I just had a light bulb moment where I was like, this is exactly what, it probably was the CFA Research Challenge, where, you know, you really actually do a lot of work as a team and really dig down and analyze a company. And I was like, this is a great experience. It didn't even feel like it was work. It was fun. I mean, it was challenging.
Except for the 30 hours, you know, a week that you were doing.
It was challenging, but it was fun. It was enjoyable. It felt like we were learning a lot. So I always had that in the back of my mind, something I wanted to do. When I graduated, I ended up taking a job down in Milwaukee with U.S. Bank, and I knew it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but it was at least investment related. And so what I was doing at the time is I had signed up for the CFA. There's 3 exams, so it's a 3-year deal.
Concurrently with this, I had tried to get you into the ASAP program.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was working there, and RJ was talking with Betsy. I'm not sure if she's still the director of the program, but she was at the time. And so I had applied there, and I was planning on, you know, really only working for U.S. Bank for 6 months, maybe, or so until I could enroll in, or a year until I could enroll in grad school at UW-Madison. But I actually didn't get in, so I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And so I just continued my journey with the CFA. I had actually reached out to a principal at the firm I work at now for an internship before I took the job at Whitewater, and I sort of told them, hey, I was going to go to grad school, and they had said, oh, well, if you're going to do that, you know, we probably want to have someone that's going to work full time afterwards, you know, not just work for us for summer and leave. So that didn't work out. And then he saw on LinkedIn I wasn't at school, and he's like, I thought you were at school. What's going on? So I kind of told him the story, and by then I had already finished the first level of the CFA. I was signed up to take the second one, and so I sort of used that as like a springboard without going through. So it is higher education, is just not through a formal university.
And I failed him in not getting him into ASAP. He then took that failure and turned it into a success. After he took the CFA and scored in the top 10% of all people worldwide, then I called the people at ASAP and said, hey, great call. You rejected this guy who scored in the top 10% of all test takers on the CFA worldwide. And then they said, oh, have him reapply. And then I said, oh, you'll never see him again. He got a job on his own in the investment business. All right. I wanted to brag about that, Blake. So good job on your bulldog.
Yeah, similar to Blake's story, through AIP and RJ, as a professor, I really learned that I wanted to get on the investment side. But at the time I was here, Tim Carr, I don't know if any of you had him as a professor, but he taught the real estate classes. And so I really wanted to pair, I'm like, all right, I really love the investment side with AIP, but, I really like the tangible aspect of real estate. And so at the time when I graduated Whitewater, I applied to internships and jobs. And my best opportunity, I worked for a firm called Exelon, which is ComEd's parent company. They're an electric utility for like Chicago and Northeast. And any Fortune 500 company has a real estate department, but you're an expense, right? Like you manage, the office leases, or you do cost analysis. And if you are an expense, you'll be paid like an expense, in my experience. And so I knew I wanted to get on the investment side, and to do that, it's really difficult. I found it really difficult to get on the private equity and debt side. So I went back to school, and I went to UW-Madison. They've got a 1-year master's in real estate private equity. And this really propelled not only my skills, but also the network with real estate. You learn valuation, economics, development, and then it's applied learning. So if any of you are interested in real estate, Madison's got one of the best programs in the nation. You manage a $10 million fund, and you act as an investor, and you can invest in properties with developers and sponsors. And so you get put on a team in a region, and then through that program and the Wisconsin Real Estate Alumni, I landed this role at Northwestern Mutual as institutional money.
Are we over on time? I can make it quick. Okay, cool. Anyways, so I did go to school longer. I want to start with saying though, you don't necessarily have to go to school longer like what Blake did. If you are a self-starter and you put yourself in front of the right people and do the right things, I fully think you can make it in this industry without having to go to grad school or do additional schooling. However, in my perspective, because I had that accounting background and that's what I thought I wanted to do, I didn't feel like I was prepared to get a job in the investment industry, because not all I had a great experience in AIP with RJ and learning how to manage money, but I felt like I wasn't going to be able to compete with the other applicants I'd be going up against. So with RJ's help, I started talking with people at the ASAP program, which stands for the Applied Security Analysis program at UW-Madison, and was able to get a spot there straight out of undergrad. I had an internship out in Salt Lake City at Wasatch Global Investors. In between, then I went to Madison for the past 2 years, and in the second year, similarly to what you do in AIP, managing a student-run fund, we managed our own funds as well, just on a smaller team, and would present to board members. So it was a real life experience of managing, kind of being a portfolio manager. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, so a year after I started my public accounting career, that's when my CPA was certified, and that's the day I texted RJ saying I need to make a change. And me and him considered doing ASAP, what Courtney did at Madison. But obviously being a year into your career, making money for the first time in your life, that was a high opportunity cost for me. So what
let me just quote the exact incident. Jacob says, I'm not an accountant. I was like, And then he's like, what am I going to do? And then I said, well, I would give you the best recommendation for ASAP or anywhere you want to go to try and make this switch, because I think that's the way to do it. And then Jacob said, I've been doing pretty well as an accountant, and I don't want to be a poor student again. And then I said, okay, well, that's going to be harder, but you then pursued a path and
Yeah, like Courtney was saying, I stalked LinkedIn, but for jobs. So I applied, I don't know, 15 to 20 different places in Milwaukee, Chicago, Boston, New York. Had a few super days, had a few second super days, and then eventually I got to a spot where I was able to get the job at Baird, and I got the job offer there. I was the only person in that super day of 6 people that had no finance experience, 0. I was the only person with a non-traditional background. And my advice, kind of, if you're not going to go to school, you can get jobs in this industry, is because I felt like I came across as I want to be in this. And even though I didn't have the knowledge set, I was able to convey to the people who interviewed me that this is what I want to do. This is my end goal. This is actually where I want to be too at Baird at that time. I still do. But that comes so much more. And now being on the other side of it, where I am interviewing people for jobs on my team, that matters more than sometimes your experience, your knowledge. Because you can always coach that. What you can't coach is, does this person want to work hard? Does this person have passion? Does this person have the ability to like actually dive into things? So that's where like you can separate yourself if you don't go back to school.
And I'll make a little pitch for AIP, because I think in all of your cases, right, that the experience in AIP gave you standing to make that kind of a presentation to someone. I've actually done this in a class that was very similar to actual real work experience, and I love it, and that's why I want to work in this industry.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing quick to that. With AIP, one of the things that you'll get out of there is you'll bring out a writing sample. So it's a time where it's something that you can present and bring into interviews, and it's something that one of the key things, or first things we always ask from people that are applying either for an internship at our firm or for a full-time position. And so that's something that you can you can really use outside of the classroom.
I know, because I've heard from both you and Jacob, and maybe Courtney and Dylan too, that the product that's required in AIP is a professional level investment report, and you can put it in front of somebody who's worked in the business for 20 years, and they will be impressed by the quality of that work. That's what we do in AIP.
Yeah, it's something that immediately candidates to have that set them apart from others. It's a really big deal.
Dr. Jafarinejad, are we done for time? All right. Thank you.
So what we're gonna do right before lunch is we're gonna do the first 2 tickets for bucks. So we're gonna award 2 of the bucks ticket in a little bit. I hope everybody who's here has signed up already. So are you guys ready? I don't think anybody has missed it. At least nobody. So if you want to take some pictures of the. All right. Let's go. It's rigged. This is rigged. Sam, congratulations. So 1 ticket. Yeah, come up. No, hold on. Just relax for now. No. What? Hey, how many names do we have of the FMA board? Is it just one? No, I assume that all of you has just one shot, one name. Okay, congratulations, both of you. Well, no, you have to use it. So it's good that you guys know each other. So we're gonna do 2 more. after the financial planning panel. So this year we're gonna switch it up. Instead of awarding 2 tickets, we're gonna do all 4 to separate students. So there's 2 more tickets that we can still raffle off. So with that, let's do lunch. After lunch break, we're gonna have the last panel financial planning,
The caveat with the tickets, just so we're all aware, is you must be here to receive them. So there'll be 2 more raffled off at some point throughout Finance Day, but you must be in the room to claim your tickets. So just want to be clear on that.